Hello guys and gals, let's look at how to do an assembly, how to start putting some of your parts together. You can do this once you have all your parts built, or you can kind of dive in and do it one piece at a time, your choice. All right, here we are back in Onshape. Hopefully you've logged in, hopefully you have all your stuff set up. Let's look at how to do an assembly. So down here we're going to do a little plus button to start something new. We're building a new assembly. And I'm going to select create assembly. Assembly is where we attach a bunch of parts together in some sort of relationship. Okay, so in our assembly, first we need to insert or bring in our parts that we want to end up putting together. So I'm going to go up here to the insert button. And notice my parts are right there. I want to insert this one, click on it. I want to insert that one, and I want to insert that one. Notice I just kind of just jumble them all in together, but that's fine. I clicked over here, and now I'm going to click right here. Okay, well that's obviously a jumbled mess, so let's look at just some of how to navigate this. Here early on in the semester, our big goal is just general navigating. This is kind of a new world, a new landscape, and we just want to know how do we get around. So first things first, to clear this up, to move any part, I can double click it, and when I double click that part, notice I can move it up, I can move it in this direction on this axis, or I can move it in this axis. To me, I think I need to come this way, so I'm going to click this arrow and drag it, and you can choose how far. There I drug it out that way, just so I can get some clarity on what's going on. Let me separate these two now. I'm going to click out. All right, so you just move that one. I just move that one over. You can also sometimes drag these. If I just click on it and drag the mouse, you can do that. A couple other things you can do orientation-wise. You can rotate a part. Let's say I want this turned kind of this way. I can double click on it here. So we can drag, you can drag. Here I can drag, I can select this little piece, which means rotate in this direction or rotate in this direction. Maybe I want to pull it down so far. If you want to do an exact amount of degrees, you can enter in the degrees. Maybe I want it exactly, I don't know, 90 degrees. Enter. Great, okay. So we can rotate them in any direction that we want. Now let's start looking at how to get around. So notice what you do if you do click the wheel, hold the wheel. It's the full pan. If you click the right click and hold it, you can do kind of this orientation so you can see various pieces. Now when you start building these together, parts might move on you a little bit, and that can be kind of confusing. So there's this idea of fixing something, which means it can no longer move, or unfix it so that it can move. So if I right click on this, one of these options right here is fix. That means as I do some constraints on it, it can't move anymore. So if I try and drag it, notice that little arrow came up, and this little icon right here tells me that is fixed. It cannot move at all. But these other ones, these can still move. All right, so the next big thing is the idea of constraints. Constraints are going to be a huge part of everything you do in assemblies. Let's look at how these work. I'm trying to figure out how, with my crazy nonsense pieces I built, how to make this all connect. Well, let me do an easy one first, and let me say this little piece right here, maybe this groove needs to go right into that groove. So maybe if I orient this a little bit just so you can see this before I do it, I'm going to spin this. I meant to spin it that way. Now let's go 90 degrees. Okay, so my goal here is I want to put this piece right in that and tell it to keep it there. All right, so what we do is we use these things called constraints. One of our first and most common constraints is going to be this one right here, the tangent mate. Tangent, maybe you're familiar with it in geometry, means two things touch at exactly perfectly one point. So let's use this tangent mate. And for all these, if you just hover the mouse over it long enough, a little description comes up, and so it'll tell you how to use them as needed. But let me show you a couple. All right, so tangent mate. So for this tangent mate, first it's asking, well, what do you want to touch? Well, I want this line right here to always be locked into this line right there. Okay, great. I'm going to hit check. That part's good. Now, these two lines are locked, but notice if my computer can go fast enough that this is still going to move. So we're not actually quite done yet. Most mates almost all mates you ever do are always going to require at least 2 steps to really lock it in, occasionally more. Let's lock this line and this line now. So I'm going to go back to our tangent mate. I'm going to lock this line and that line. Perfect. Hit OK. And now if I try and drag this with my mouse, notice that can't move. With this line, with these these segments being locked and these segments being locked, that's in place. Now let's say you end up making a mistake. You do a constraint that you don't want. You can go right over here. You can right click on any of these. You could just edit it if you want. You can delete it. Sometimes you'll rename it saying this is what it's connecting, that sort of thing. Okay, so there's one example of this. Let's see how we're going to bring in this other crazy piece that I don't actually know if it's going to work, but let's give it a shot. Let's say this piece right here needs to be right on top of this part here. So I'm going to go back to our tangent mate. Let's say I want this edge and this edge to be locked up. So now notice those are locked. I'm going to hit, yeah, that's good. All right, so I briefly paused the video for a second. I realized that when I made these, I had one set of dimensions, and here I made a different set of dimensions. So I realized I needed to fix that. And on that note, I really want to emphasize, guys, this is technical work, and mistakes are a big part of it. Honestly, feel free to make mistakes. And on that note, it's really important you take some time and play with these. In fact, we're going to encourage you guys and almost require, try these various mates, see what they do. Just playing with it is probably one of the very best ways to learn. This is really kind of a new language, a new structure. Just like any new game, you kind of just explore around first. So that's really, really important. I hope you guys will embrace playing with some of these things, see what they do. But as far as fixing this piece here, let's say this piece is not right. I realize I made a mistake on it. So I can take it out of my assembly. I'm going to right click here and hit delete. Open up the part again back down here. I had it right here. And now I can edit it however I need be. Maybe one of my extrusions just wasn't far enough. So I'm going to right click here, hit edit. And now you can change this to whatever it needs to be. I had that set at 0.75. The scale I used in making these ones was 1, so I'm just putting it back over there. Okay, so update it over here, and then you can go back into your assembly and reinsert that part. So I'm going to go insert, find that part, and you can kind of choose where you want to put it. Let's see, I want it right there is fine. Okay. Okay, so now I actually want this piece right here being flush with this. So let me rotate this piece here. So I double clicked it. Now I want to rotate it. I think it's this one. That's kind of hard for me to tell, but yeah, it looks good. And the free drag is pretty tough, so I would encourage you guys, use the mouse pad or the number pad and actually type in. There we want 180 degrees. Okay, great. Let me rotate around and show you guys kind of what's going on down here. Now I actually want to rotate it kind of clockwise here because I want this groove to end up kind of going into that spot. So let me click right here, and I'm working for a clockwise rotation, which I think is going to be this guy. Let me turn it again. I want 180 degrees. Okay, that's kind of what I was looking for. I'm going to click off here. So now we have it closer. It's still flying up there, which isn't what we want. If I go down here, I can drag it to get it relatively close. Maybe. Okay, so we can drag it to get close, but now let's look at how we're going to mate this up for this to slide right in here. What I'm going to do, let's choose this tangent mate again. I'm going to choose, here it tells me you can choose a face, an edge, or a vertex. I'm going to choose, let's try the vertex one. I want this corner right here. I want it being locked to this corner right there. Awesome. That looks pretty good. Now the question is, am I done? Can that still move with those constraints, or is it locked? If you're not sure, you can drag it and see what happens. So, uh-oh, it actually moved. Just having those 2 points locked in wasn't enough to make this locked in. So it's going to take a second constraint, as almost all of your constraints will, or all of your mates will. So let me do this tangent mate again, and I'm going to choose this vertex and ask yourself, what vertex should that be locked to? I hope you're thinking right here. I lock those two up. It's close, not quite right. Looks to me like something. Oh yeah, okay. So I have those two locked, Well, it can still tilt up and down. So we need to do one more constraint. And there are other ways to have done that in 2 steps, but since we're already here, let's finish off how to do this in 3 steps. I'm going to go back to my constraint mate, or my tangent mate, and let's tell it I want this segment and this segment to always be touching. Confirm. There we go. And now we can kind of rotate this around, see what we have, and there's our cube so far. If you've made it this far, awesome job. As always, don't hesitate to ask us questions. Take a moment and play with this. Maybe right-click on some of these and delete them, or try doing it a different way. Again, the play is crucial here early on while you're trying to learn this new language. I hope you guys are doing well, and I look forward to working with you again soon. Take care.